Today on the show, we have Schuyler Williamson. This is a guy who turned down a football scholarship at the University of Miami to go serve our country and instead attend West Point where he played baseball.
I called Detroit. They had me coming back to spring training with the big league team, and I told them I'm going to go into the military. I was built to be a warrior.
He talked about what it was like to be blown up on the side of the road in Afghanistan.
In my first deployment, pretty early in it actually, I got blown up pretty bad by a roadside bomb, and it happened the afternoon after I called my wife. And I only got to call my wife for 30 minutes once a week.
Even leaned into the power of being a steady leader.
I was the oldest of two brothers, and I led. Before I knew what leadership was, I led. We run our family like a business. Well, I mean, it starts first with example, right?
Yeah.
Like they see their daddy lead himself every day. I don't expect perfection from myself, but man, I know what excellence is, and I'm after excellence. Everybody has their own standard in my family, and look, daddy is going to say something if you're not living up to the standard, right? It's your standard too. You said you wanted to be this person.
Right.
And so I'm not going to let you quit on yourself.
This is an episode that really resonated with me because I believe that finding patterns instead of problems is the key to success, and Schuyler dives into all of that. How did you go from West Point to real estate to ranching with Dad? Like, what walk me through the journey. Like, why West Point? How did you start there?
Well, I wasn't this kid that grew up wanting to be in the military.
No?
No, from the time I was 5 years old, I played baseball and football, and we didn't have a whole lot of money. So I don't remember what age, but I remember having a conversation that you can get to college two ways. You can make really good grades, or you can be really good at ball. Either way, you can get to college that way. And grades sound like a whole lot of work. Baseball and football sounded like a whole lot of fun. So I chose the sports route, and I was always a hard worker. So when my brothers would go play Nintendo or go play basketball out in the street, just messing around, I would go hit baseballs into the net, or I would go run sprints to get faster. I mean, from the time I was like 7, I was that way.
Where did you get that?
My parents are hardworking people.
Yeah.
If I were to say there's two traits that I would say both of them have and above most, and that's they're selfless and they're hard workers. And so maybe it rubbed off, but I think it's funny. I was on John Vroman's podcast, and he asked me the question, do you think it's just innate, or do you think you were trained that way by your parents? And I've got two other brothers, and my brothers are great. They're great men, and one of them's a really successful business owner, and they love their families, and they're good guys, but they never worked like I did. Mm-hmm. I think I just came out, and that's who I was. Yeah, I just had it in me. Yeah. And so I worked real hard, and I was a good ball player. When I was graduating from high school, I really narrowed it down. I had several options, but I narrowed it down to two: University of Miami, or to play football, or go to West Point and play baseball. And the reason why West Point even showed up on my radar was because my baseball coach in high school was like, "I think you're an academy guy. You ought to apply." I was like, well, I asked my dad, I was like, well, why would I apply here? I don't want to be in the military. He goes, well, they pay you to go there. I said, well, I can go to college and get paid at the same time.
And play baseball?
Yeah. He's like, yeah. Well, that sounds pretty sweet to me. So I applied, and I met with the congressman, and I did all the things, and I got accepted because I was a good ball player. I actually scored lower than the lowest person scored on the test scores.
Wow.
But instead of scholarships, the ball coaches get to have picks, where they basically stand in front of the committee and validate that you're going to make it through. Right. You're smart enough, capable enough, all that. And so he used one of his picks on me, the baseball coach did. And so I'm sitting here trying to evaluate, should I go to West Point or should I go play football at Miami? And I love football. Football is my love. It still is my love. Yeah. Baseball blessed me, but football is I like to hit people. Yeah. My dad, he told me, he's like, hey, look, you might make it to the NFL. You're good enough now, and if you stayed healthy, you might make it. But the reality of it is you may get hurt in your freshman year, and you just might. And if you go to West Point, you'll never have to worry. You'll never have to live the life that me and your moms had to live, because my parents had me when they were like 17.
Wow.
So they've been grinding since early, because they had an early kid,
right,
and they didn't have any other way but to just start working. And so I was thankfully mature enough at 18 to make the decision to go to West Point, and I'm grateful that I did. I ended up playing baseball there, and I got drafted by the Detroit Tigers, so I got to play baseball after college, which was a dream come true. But we were at war, and at West Point, they teach you to desire to serve. So I called Detroit. I had a good minor league season there. They called me the general. And I called Detroit. They had me coming back to spring training with the big league team, and I told them I'm going to go into the military. All my buddies from college are fighting overseas. My younger brother enlisted and went and fought overseas. It just didn't sit well with me. I wanted to be a part of that, and so I went into the military, and I did the Ranger, Airborne, all the cool guy stuff, and I was a warrior. I was built to be a warrior. It brought me closer to football again, which I love. And I grew up hunting and fishing, and so I knew the land. I knew how to shoot a weapon. None of that stuff had to be trained in me. I kind of knew it already. I was married to my wife the whole time. She married me after I got done playing baseball, but right before I went into the military.
Wow.
And so about 5 years into my service, I was 29 years old, and I was like, I want to have kids, right? Like, how long are we going to wait until we have kids? Well, remember, I fought in 2 wars. I fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I fought. I didn't go pump gas over there.
Right.
We were fighting every day. And in my first deployment, pretty early in it, actually, I got blown up pretty bad by a roadside bomb, and it happened the afternoon after I called my wife. And I only got to call my wife for 30 minutes once a week.
Wow.
And so it happened after the call, and somehow the families found out that the LT's truck got hit and everybody in the truck was a casualty. Well, most people don't know that casualty just means injury.
Right.
If you were killed, you would be killed in action, right? KIA. And so my wife, she didn't hear from me. Mm-hmm. She didn't know if I was, if I'm missing limbs or on life support. Did you know any of that?
Yeah.
And so ever since that, of course, I called her a week later.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I'm fine. I just hurt my leg a little bit. But, but ever since that moment, she's been hesitant to commit to the military. And certainly when I asked her to have a kid, she's like, well, as long as you're doing what you're doing, we're not having kids. 'Cause I'm like, I have a kid and be a single mother.
Yeah.
She's like, I can bear with you serving this country, but I'm not going to have your kid and you not come home to help me raise it. And I thought, well, that's fair. But it exposed another thing to me. I interpreted that as my wife wasn't living the life that she really wanted to live. And, when I committed to her for her to be my wife, it wasn't my life, right? It became our life. Mm-hmm. And that was the reason why I ended up leaving the military. So in my last deployment to Afghanistan, I told the colonel I was getting out. And I applied to the University of Texas MBA program from Afghanistan.
Wow.
In the middle of the night after my rotation, I took the GMATs and applied. And it's fun. That's a funny story too. But I got into UT, the short of it is. And while I was in McComb's program there, Keller Williams corporate office recruited me from the MBA program to run their commercial real estate division. And so I had been I had been interviewing with all these consulting firms, all banks and stuff like this, like the things that the MBA programs want you to go to. And I never felt like I met the leader that I wanted, in my first career outside of the military. And the person that recruited me to Keller Williams, to me, was the first person that I met with that I thought had that feel of a general. And I wanted that. Mm-hmm. When I walked in, I wanted the power to be as if I was sitting down in an office with a general.
Who was it?
It was Mary Tennant and Mark Willis.
She is a general.
She is, and she's who I reported to.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. Like I'm coming out of the MBA program. It was top 5 at the time when I graduated, and all my classmates were getting like $175,000 a year. Mary, she's like, well, this job pays $55,000 a year, but if you give me 1 year and you do what you say you can do in this interview, I'll pay you more. And to her credit, 12 months after I started with her, she tripled my income. And then I was kind of more aligned with the rest of my classmates, what they were getting. I certainly brought the average down, from McCombs. I mean, I know they were hating the choice that I made, but I was chasing the leader. I mean, and I knew that leadership mattered that much.
Yeah.
And so I chose the leader, and it happened to be in real estate.
Did you have that kind of leader in baseball or football growing up? Was your dad that kind of leader? Like, did you get it from the military? Did you always kind of look for that right leader?
Well, I was the oldest of two brothers, and I led. Before I knew what leadership was, I led. And then I played quarterback in football and middle linebacker on defense. And then in baseball, I played catcher.
So you were the...
So I think God just put me in positions to lead. Now, my dad led our family, but it wasn't until I was leaving home that my dad actually started to lead in his business. I mean, he worked in a manufacturing facility for 40 years.
Wow.
And at the end of it, in the end of his 40-year career, he was running that facility. But it took him all the way to the end before they allowed him to do it because he didn't have a college degree. I mean, he literally had to white knuckle his way all the way to the top. I mean, when he had me, he was sweeping the floors. I mean, that's the job he did. And so he's a success story in his own right, but he didn't get to leadership until I was gone. So I never got to see him lead in any other way but our family. But he's a wonderful leader in that regard. But no, I don't remember having a leader mentor in my life.
You've just always been a student of it.
I've been a student of it. I mean, and certainly once you get to West Point, you get a definition of leadership, which I didn't have a definition until then. But then the Army gave me a definition. And then in the military, there's kind of a rally around the saying leaders are readers. Mm-hmm. I think it started with the military. I don't know that for sure, but like it certainly is in the culture that if you're a leader, it's expected that you read. Right. And that's when I really started to read, was that first year at West Point. And then I just started reading like nonstop. And I don't like stories, nonfiction, or I don't like fiction stories. Right. I spend 100% of my time reading nonfiction because I like the feeling of growth. Yeah. And so I like that feeling. It's kind of, maybe it's something I just chase after, an addiction maybe. Yeah. But like I like that feeling, so that's all I read. And I've been reading it for, ever since I was 20, I guess.
Yeah, West Point is probably one of the most special places I've ever seen. My sister went to West Point and was a manager for the football team. And so I remember, I think they call the freshmen plebes, if I remember correctly. And then that graduating weekend, once you get out of like boot camp for the summer and like become an actual freshman. Yep. We went there and we were on the grounds and on the field, they call it, where the march happens. And it was just like, none of our family, my grandfather served, but it wasn't like in our genes. It wasn't in our DNA. My sister just got this desire and was hooked on going to one of the academies. And I'll never forget, she applied to the Air Force Academy, which is where she really wanted to go, and she didn't get in. Wow. And, I'll never forget her and my mom sitting on the couch in the living room, and she was just like bawling. And I felt like this just pit in my stomach because there's my sister that's younger than me, but all you want her to do is achieve her dreams. And so I started calling the congressman at 18, like I was going to do something about changing this decision. And then a couple weeks later, she got word that she got into West Point, and it was like the greatest day ever. And I was like, what the heck is West Point? Like, what are you doing? And I remember we went out there, and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's not like close to an airport. It's not like this big, bustling, beautiful city. It's just this little like divey town. Yep. But the grounds were just so special. Yeah. Like it was surreal to be there. Yeah.
It's beautiful from the outside looking in.
Oh, I bet.
It's gray from the inside looking out.
Yeah, she's told me some stories. Yeah. But what does it look like to apply for MBA while serving in Afghanistan? Like, how does that work?
Well, you have two priorities, right? Right? You have the priority of making sure that you do your job really well in the military, especially in combat, because lives are at stake. Mm-hmm. And then you have the priority of working on your future too. And, I guess we could say it another way, working on the business and, in the business, right? And I knew I was going to be tired. I didn't really study, Matt. Like I just sat down and took the test, and I wouldn't advise that. You know, I didn't have to talk the dean into accepting me, but we all acknowledged that my test scores were low.
They're low.
And you know, again, like when you're ranked as high as McCombs is, they publish the test scores of their students that they accept, and I was the lowest one.
Wow.
But you know, at West Point, I finished 81st in my class, which is a top 10%. And then at McCombs, I finished number 3.
Wow.
And that's hard work. It has nothing to do with my pure talent intellectually. I'm a smart guy, but I outworked all these guys. They were all smart. Everybody was super capable.
Yep.
But I was there for a reason that maybe was a little closer to my life's purpose than they were. You know, they were there for their next job.
Right.
And I wasn't there for a job. I was there to learn so that I could, you know, multiply. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't even church the story up. Like I somehow found the computer that was reliable enough to stay on the internet long enough for me to finish the GMAT. And I remember not knowing the answer to some of the problems, but taking a best guess and submit it. Yeah.
Didn't matter.
Yeah.
You've done it all. You've built the business. You've made the money. You conquered the grind. You're the lone wolf. And yeah, that got you here. But let's be real, it won't take you to the next level. The truth, most successful people don't hunt alone. They join a tribe, a network of elite entrepreneurs, investors, or leaders who challenge them, push them, and hold them accountable to their biggest goals. Gobundance is that tribe. Extreme accountability, real wealth building, life-changing adventure, and a brotherhood who refuses to let each other play small. So here's the challenge. Stay the lone wolf or run with the pack. The right tribe changes everything. Find a link in the description. Apply today. This episode is brought to you by Loletta Birnbaum, LLC, doing business justice. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, real estate investor, or a combination of each, you know how critical it is to have trusted legal advisors on your team. Loletta Birnbaum has built a stellar reputation providing exceptional legal services that make a difference. As a national business law firm, Loletta Birnbaum provides a wide variety of legal services, including general corporate, contract negotiations, mergers and acquisitions, succession planning, intellectual property, commercial litigation, shareholder disputes, real estate, and employment. Whether you're navigating a complex business deal, resolving disputes, or protecting your brand, their team delivers practical, results-driven legal solutions tailored to your goals. For inquiries, Gobundance members should email Loletta Birnbaum at gobundance@loletta.com. That's LAULETTA.com. You can also visit their website at www.lauletta.com to learn more about how they can do your business justice. This episode is brought to you by Apex Functional Health, the team behind age-defying health at Gobundance. If you're a high-achieving entrepreneur, investor, or leader, you know that your health is your greatest asset. But the truth is, traditional medicine isn't built for people like you. It treats symptoms, ignores root causes, and keeps you stuck in cycles of fatigue, stress, and subpar performance. That's where Apex comes in. They do not do Band-Aids. They engineer elite health transformations for men, women, and children looking to optimize their health and be proactive instead of reactive. Apex uses root cause functional medicine, advanced lab testing, and cutting-edge biohacking tools to help you optimize energy, eliminate the root cause holding you back, and reverse early signs of aging so you can live, feel, and perform at your best. Apex helps you take control of your health so you can lead with power, not burnout. Visit apexfunctionalhealth.com to schedule your free strategy call and see what's possible when your body finally works for you, not against you. What's slowing your business down? Is it endless emails, scheduling headaches, repetitive tasks that steal your time? My Outdesk has your solution. Their experienced global virtual assistants handle the busy work so you can focus on strategy, growth, and whatever matters to you most. From administrative support to marketing and customer service, they've got you covered at a fraction of the cost of hiring in-house. Scale smarter, save bigger, get the support you need today at My Outdesk. What did life look like when you got out of the military? Was there like this, I mean, because you're going from combat and military where it's like adrenaline rush, I'm assuming 24/7, right? It's like, to your point, it's life or death pretty much every day.
Yep.
to a life, here where it's not quite life or death every day. Was there like a low? Was there a letdown? Was there a transition period for you?
Yeah, there was. I mean, if I was ever depressed in my life, it was at that point. Because I've done this a couple times. I went from the top of my game as a baseball player to a brand new officer in the military. Then I went from top of my game in the military to basically nobody.
Right.
I mean, I can't work out 5 times a day. I can't cut the grass 5 times a week. There was only so many things I could do. I mean, I was in the best shape of my life because when I get bored, I just go throw weights around.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was kind of disappointed by my peers in the MBA program, because I had been in some pretty elite Army units that, you just soldier to soldier, everybody is on purpose and professional, and they're there to be the best. And then I was doing these interviews, and you pretty much start interviewing right away once you get in the program, or at least I did.
Yeah.
And the people I would work for, just nothing felt right. Nothing was motivating. And when your life's on the line and you're risking your life or willing to give your life for your brothers right next to you, I mean, not only is it a rush when you're squeezing a trigger, but your purpose is just so big. It's so big that you're willing to give your life for it.
Right.
And oh, by the way, when we come home, everybody in the airport's saying thank you. People on the street are saying thank you. People are trying to buy me coffees and stuff. Everybody's just so gracious. And then you just go be what I know now is just normal.
Right.
But it didn't feel normal to me. It felt like, well, who am I now? I had to recreate my identity and figure out who I was going to be for this next chapter.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, I was pretty low.
Pretty low.
I was pretty low because I didn't have anything to work on. And I'm a growth guy.
Right.
So when there was nothing to go grow, I mean, I was lost, right? I didn't feel like I was in control.
But you had your wife with you, right? Your wife was at your side. How did she pick you up? How did she pull you through it? Did she just slap you in the face and say, let's go, get over it?
Yeah, I think she, a lot of it was just missed expectations, right?
Yeah.
Like my expectations were so high. And I think she helped me, because my wife worked for Deloitte & Touche.
Okay.
She was a CPA, and I mean, I guess she is still a CPA. She doesn't practice anymore. Right. But she was working with the number one firm in the U.S. at the time. And so she was telling me, this is what people look like and how they act like. And, oh, by the way, this is why you're going to be great for people like me. You're going to get to come lead people like me, and we're going to love you because you know how to do it. The people that lead me today, they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and then she just loved me, man. She loved me like crazy. When I came back from Iraq the first time, for 50 days straight, I had nightmares. Just my mind just couldn't handle the change. And then all the trauma was starting to come back, because I had subdued all that trauma so that I could just stay in the fight.
Right.
And it was just pouring out of me. And, my wife is, I owe her a lot. But yeah, she just loved me. She loved me like crazy. And, she didn't make me wait too long to have kids. So that was nice too.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Now, how many kids
It gave me something to grow.
Yeah, there you go. Give me something to grow.
Yeah, I have 2 kids.
2 kids.
Yep. I have an 11-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son.
So how are you instilling leadership in them?
Oh, dude. I mean, we run our family like a business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it starts first with example, right?
Yeah.
They see their daddy lead himself every day.
Yeah.
And I don't expect perfection from myself. But man, I know what excellence is, and I'm after excellence. And so they see their daddy get up first every day. They see their daddy moving his body, moving his brain. They see their daddy happy, choosing to have good days. They see their daddy, making hard decisions for the family, coming home on time from work. I never miss games. I never miss recitals. I never miss any of that. So they see it from an example, but we've got a vision for our family. If you were to pull my daughter aside, my son, I don't know, he's 7, he's young, but if you pull my daughter aside, hey, what are our values? My daughter can recite our family values. She knows what we're working on right now. we're doing some training at the house.
Nice.
And everybody has their own standard. Like my standard, again, I learned this in the military. It is unfair for you to put your personal standard on other people. They didn't sign up for that.
Right.
And so everybody has their own standard in my family. And look, Daddy is going to say something if you're not living up to the standard, right? Mm-hmm. It's your standard too. You said you wanted to be this person.
Right.
And so I'm not going to let you quit on yourself. And so we talk about that stuff too. But yeah, I mean, we're getting after it just like we do at work.
What's incredible about that too, though, is like it's just such a big aha for me, but for so many people that not everybody signed up to live up to your standard. And so when you talk about leading companies, leading employees, like your standard is very different than many of your people on your teams.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're bad. That doesn't mean you're good. That doesn't mean they're wrong. You're right.
No.
How do you then communicate with them and figure out what their standard is?
Yeah. Well, it starts in the hiring process, right? We won't let somebody join our team unless I know that their motivations align with mine. Mm-hmm. And so I want people that work with us that want big lives. Mm-hmm. And that way, if I can help them get their big life, I know I'm going to get mine.
Right.
And and I know you share some of that mindset too.
For sure.
But that resonates with me. And so it's very important that I know that all aligns, because then I'm just going to push them to have a big life.
Yeah.
And I'm going to help them solve the problems that are at their level, what they're doing for the team. And then as the business is rewarded, they'll be rewarded too. I also, there's an expectation for every role.
Right.
Right. And I read a Harvard Business Review once that talked about A, B, and C players and A, B, and C roles.
Yeah.
And so they used the airline industry for the basis of the case study. And believe it or not, the pilot position in the airline industry is a B role, and they need B players to take those roles, right? I mean, you take off and you land, but in between you just sit around, and A players don't sit around.
Right.
And B players don't bring as much value as A players.
Right.
So we know they get on and they have a little chuckle in the beginning and they thank everybody for flying at the end, but like that's all the value that the pilots bring.
Right.
Now, the A role is the stewardess. And that person has constant communication with the client. They have constant opportunity to deliver value to the customer. Wow. They're handling all the issues up front and personal. And you need an A player for your business in that A role there. And so as I'm looking at creating standards in my business, the first thing is, all right, let's get real. Like, is it A, B, or C role on the team? All right. Now, did I marry an A player in that A role?
Yeah.
All right. If so, you know what? It's high expectations, man. It's an A player in an A role. And when you hold them accountable at a high level, they love it just as much as you do.
Right.
Nothing's going to turn them more on than a challenge. And then as you work down to B position or C position, it's a little less so, right? Yeah. And you can see it too. Like my assistant Gracie, who's been with me for 11 years now, in a lot of ways, she's kind of like my mole in the company. She'll tell me like if somebody's disgruntled or not, and she's been with me long enough to say, well, I'm just gonna make up a name.
Yeah.
Sally doesn't feel like she's getting enough time with you right now. Well, I was like, well, Gracie, why do you think that's the case? And she's like, I know. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, Sally gets my time. Sally's in a B role.
Yeah.
So she's getting the appropriate amount of time. Now, if she needs me, she can communicate that, and then I will give her more time so that we can solve whatever problem she feels like she needs. But I don't have unlimited time for everything, right? And I'm a believer in that the leader both leads people and is a producer.
Yeah.
The reason why I get the lead is because I produced well enough to grow this thing.
Right.
So I'm not going to deprive the company of its number one producer.
Right.
Not right now. Right. We're still growing. So I've got to make sure that I appropriately split that time right. And, I'm grateful that people want more time with me. And, the thing that calls you a disciplined person is being able to say no.
Yeah. What's fascinating about that is I've had this addition bias in my life. I'm not sure if you've ever wrestled with this, but you think the way to get bigger and grow is by saying yes to more things.
Yeah.
And then you look at your calendar and you're like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And it's taking me away from this, and this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until recently that those yeses started taking me away from my family, which is like priority number one for me. Yeah. And so I finally got hit over the head, by life, that is my no answer is my strongest answer, because it's going to make my yeses even stronger.
Yeah.
And I had this belief that people would be offended by a no. I had this belief that people wouldn't accept a no, but what I've found is people respect a no.
Yeah.
As long as you're confident in your no. If it's like a wishy-washy, like, well, I don't know, like people get offended with that. But the more direct and honest you are with your communication, like, hey, no, now is not the right time, people respect that. People hear that. And people see power in that from a leadership perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if you want to cut them some slack, just tell them why.
Yeah.
I mean, that's for a motivated, intellectually capable person.
Yeah.
If you give them a why, I mean, what you going to argue with that about? Like, it's okay. The guy thought it out. I'm grateful he put time thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I would say to that is like the yes and to that is when the right who was there.
Yeah.
Then I just said yes.
Yes.
And sometimes I've missed that. I've said yes to a who and I just didn't get it right.
Yeah.
They were great, but they just weren't what I thought they were.
Yeah.
But I'm more willing to say yes if the who is someone that I would want in my life.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it oftentimes is associated to who's asking the question.
Yeah.
But to your point, we don't always get it right. And I think one of the delusions that owners and entrepreneurs have is that every hire they make is going to be the right hire that's with them forever.
Yeah.
And in reality, hires outgrow us. We outgrow hires. We miss the mark sometimes. And sometimes we made the perfect hire for the moment in time, but 6 months later, the business pivoted and that person is no longer right for the role.
Or their life. I mean, consider me in the military.
Exactly.
I wanted a kid.
Yeah.
So I was Mr. Right until my personal life changed.
Right. It's not the military's fault. It's not your fault. It's just this is no longer working.
Yeah.
So what got you to write a book?
I read every morning. Yeah. Okay.
Your newsletter is phenomenal.
Thank you.
Like you put a lot of thought and effort into the newsletter, and it's a very easy, succinct way to get everything I need from a book, so I don't have to read the book.
That's right, man. That's the goal. That's the goal. Well, and to some extent, it's accountability, right? Like for me to be able to write that, I have to grow that week.
Right.
And so I won't ever stop because I need to grow every week. Yeah. It's good accountability.
It is good accountability.
I'm not going to let you guys down. I was reading the book, Pray First.
Okay.
And I pray multiple times in the morning because I believe in just the power in thinking, just thinking, right? I think leaders have the responsibility to be thoughtful so that we can respond, not react.
Yeah.
And the more we can not react in a day, I mean, the more steady we're going to be, right? The title of the book's The Steady Leader. Right. And it's a lot of it's about thinking. But I was reading the book, Pray First. And in that book, there's a chapter on the prayer of Jabez, which is the prayer of influence, right? On my podcast table, I have that Bible verse.
Oh, really?
Etched into it. And so that morning after reading that chapter, God just put it on my heart that the word for that year was going to be influence. And, I kind of huff and puffed about it because I'm great one-on-one, but I'm task oriented. Right. I don't need to talk to a bunch of people. I would love to be at my ranch and just sit there and enjoy animal noises, right? And just look.
Yes.
And just think.
Yeah.
But if God gives you a word, you say yes, sir. And so I read 3 or 4 books on how to become an influencer, and the one thing that was in everybody's model that I hadn't done yet was write a book. I said, okay, well, these people are they're successful, and they all wrote a book. That's the one common theme through it all. And I looked at some other leaders that have accomplished some pretty big things, and they wrote books. So all right, well, I'll write a book. And so I wrote the book just as a part of a more thought out plan to go build influence. And, and that influence that I'm trying to build, it's going to create a lot of opportunity for my business because, we're going to have clients come work with us. We're going to have talent come work with us, and it's already working. Yep. We're building our database really well. But it's the spiritual part of that influence is really important to me too. And so I wrote the book to help people and to put me in a position where I could help more people, where my voice would go further, and I could help people see that you can be a giver. You can walk this earth with your hands open and give and love and compromise and just be a good person and still have everything that you see the people that you think got it a dirty way. Mm-hmm. And so I know I'm going to build this big life. I believe that God's going to give me a lot to steward. And with those gifts, I got to give them. Like, I feel like that book was a gift. And if I just kept it inside, I'm not stewarding that gift well.
Right.
So in stewarding it well, I wrote it and brought it to the world. And so business wise, it's going to build my database. Mm-hmm. Personal wise, I'm trying to do something around this word that I received on influence.
What was it like to write a book? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did. I mean, you talk about yourself a lot.
Yeah.
So I really did, and I enjoyed researching. I enjoyed going back into my years of journal entries and like pulling out stuff that I thought was the best of the best to plug in there. If I wasn't dialed in on my model before writing the book, after writing the book, I'm super dialed in on what makes me a steady leader. And so the cool side benefit to all of this is in getting real clear on that model for myself, and so that we could publish the book, the company and all the people that I'm in business with have really adopted that and kind of said, all right, well, this is what we stand for. I mean, it's Schuyler's name on the thing. He wrote the book, but like, we're all part of his life, and so this is what we stand for. Wow. And so now I've got a bunch of steady leaders in training that work with the company, but they also know what to expect from me too. I mean, they know how I think about things, and they know what I'm doing before and after work, and there's been a lot of benefit to it. But it took me over a year. Mm-hmm. I'm still not done. Mm-mm. We're trying to get it on the shelves right now, which is a whole process.
That's a game.
Yeah. But just like everything in my life, I hired a coach. Yep. And so I've got a coach taking me through it. I never feel lost because I got an expert, kind of guiding me along the way. And I've really enjoyed it. But I'm growing something. I like to grow.
You like to grow.
Yeah.
From a steady leadership perspective, I mean, one of the things that you just said that really resonates with me is, good leaders respond, they don't react.
Yeah.
From your perspective, what other traits from a leader's point of view must you embody in order to be steady? Because we've all seen, I mean, look at the president of the country. We've all seen the leaders who are not necessarily the steadiest humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the easiest and most excitable people to follow are the steady leaders. They're the most trustworthy. They're the most reliable. You know what you're going to get. Yeah. There's no surprises. What do you think it takes to be a steady leader?
Yeah. I mean, we can talk a whole book's worth on this, but I will say that when chaos hits, which is where people are exposed their most. I think people are exposed their most in two times: when things are going really well and kind of feel mundane, and when things are super chaotic. When times are chaotic or mundane, you need to have clarity, and it's easy to make a decision before you're clear on something. And I believe the fastest way to clarity is to think through models. I think it's silly to start with anything other than a model, because models, if done well, they're already proven successful. Correct. So you can start on the hard work of other people and then build from there. And this book, and I think steady leadership in general, is a book of models that help you think through things, whether it's leading yourself, leading your team, or leading your business, that whether it's chaotic or mundane or just, an average day, you can use those models to keep yourself with the same intensity every day. And look, I have a strong sense of urgency. But I have a strong sense of urgency if things are going poorly, if things are average, or if things are going really slow. I mean, it is predictable.
Yeah.
And I think that thinking through models is the biggest takeaway. I mean, I think you got to be healthy too.
Yeah.
And I look at health in three ways. You got to be mentally healthy, you got to be physically healthy, and spiritually healthy. You know, I'll just say mentally healthy is that growth mindset. Yeah. You know, are you not only growing your capability, but do you wake up every day hungry to get better? Like that, when you're feeding that and your brain is being optimized for that kind of thought process, you're healthy mentally. Physically, I love how Ryan Holiday talks about this. Yeah. Are you taking orders from your body, or are you giving your body orders?
Yeah.
You wake up every day and say, hey, we're getting up at this time. Or does your body tell you, hey, you're going to lay down for a little bit longer? Mm-hmm. You know, or are you able to read for your audiobook for 4 hours in the morning, then go to a closing, then run out here and do a podcast and still be able to stay sharp? Right. Or is your body telling you, oh man, hey, you need a bunch of coffee, or you need to take a nap, or what? Yeah. You know, nah, like your body's either an asset or a liability, and it's largely up to you. Yes. if one way or the other. And so I think you got to be physically healthy. And then spiritually healthy is, this is the way that I like to measure it. When you wake up in the morning, do you wake up and think about all the things that you're going to get? Or do you wake up and think about all the people you're going to help and serve? And the more spiritually healthy you are, the more service-minded you are, and the more you're thinking about others, right? Yeah. No greater love than to give your life for another. And I love the way that the Bible defines humility. It's thinking of others in higher value of yourself. Right. And so I think if you're spiritually healthy, not only are you thinking about service and being there for others, but you're also free. You're free of the world's demands on you. Like, money doesn't have its hands around your throat. Right. You know, clothes and women and like all the things that are hard for everyday people to handle and manage. I believe the more spiritually healthy you are, the more you can make a decision and the world's not going to influence you. And I believe that if you're healthy in all three of those areas, and you make yourself more capable, you're gonna do better than most. You're gonna be more steady than most.
Yeah, what I just was speaking at an event, and the thing that I shared with them is through studying a bunch of successful leaders and business owners was business owners and leaders see patterns, they don't see problems. And that's essentially what you're saying with models. Like, study the models, find the model. There's a model for this. And, we talked about even the guy who created Velcro. He was out hunting, came in with a bunch of burrs on his pants and on his dog. And he's like, let me put these under the microscope and look at these. Now, the whole world wasn't ready for Velcro. So he struggled. And it wasn't until NASA said, hey, we need to figure out how to keep things on our body when we're in no gravity. Yeah. Like, we need that Velcro. And now look at what he's done. But all of us saw burrs, myself included, when I get them out here at the ranch, as a problem. Like, they're annoying. They hurt when you pull them off. It sucks. He saw a pattern. He said, what is this about these burrs that allows them to stick to us, and how can I use this for me?
That's right.
So, I mean, I think what you're saying is brilliant. I mean, looking for patterns, looking for models. Everybody's tried some iteration of what you're trying to do. Yeah. Look at their successes, look at their failures, learn from it, and allow yourself to move through things quicker because of their successes and their failures.
Well, I'll tell you one more thing, Matt, to just shape people's thoughts on their challenges. Be grateful for those challenges and really learn from what you're going through. It will always make you better. Yeah. And the other benefit that you have is you're more capable of helping people through that hard time. Look, when I had to do some things that humans shouldn't have to do in combat. Thank God I went through that, because now I know other people that go through PTSD. Like, I could sit down with them and I can hold their hand and I can say, like, I know, man, I know the pain you're going through. Yeah. And I just want you to know there's a way through it. Like, let me help you. Yeah. And without the pain, I wouldn't have the testimony, right? Like, I wouldn't have the ability to share with someone. Right. My wife grew up in an abusive household. Man, we foster kids, right? Yeah. And so when these foster children come over to our house, I can help. But man, to have a mama
Yeah.
that can sit down with you and relate and like help you work through some of that trauma. I mean, there's no greater gift for the world than that she went through that.
Right.
But she has to see it that way.
Right.
And I think that's a big deal. That's a big deal in moving from experience to wisdom.
Right.
Is like being able to take that and say, all right, what gift can I give the world because I went through this?
Well, and it's almost like no longer becoming the victim, it's becoming the hero.
100%.
You think of that victim, villain, hero triangle, like, hey, what's great about this? How can I use this to serve?
Yeah, 100%.
So people are listening to this going like, I need to consume that newsletter that Matt talked about, or I want to look at this book. Where do they find you? Where do they find the book? When's it going to hit the shelves?
Yeah. Well, I would say if you take one takeaway here, go to thesteadyleader.com. I would love for you to buy the book. I have lots of models and stories in that. You can also go to schuylerwilliamson.com and you can connect with me on whatever social platform, or you can sign up for the newsletter. And yeah, that newsletter goes out every week, and it's the best of the best that I learned throughout the week, and honestly how I apply it to my life. And I write it for my team, and then I share it with the world.
It's a good newsletter, man. Everybody should be downloading that newsletter.
Thanks.
Thanks for being here, man.
I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Thanks, brother.